Let's do it, guys. So today, like I said, we are going to be covering 3 ways to use AI for your print-on-demand business, your Etsy business, and how this is really going to change everything. And it's going to change it forever because there's a lot of things now that we can do that we couldn't do before. And it's really becoming more mainstream, where it's not just like 4 years ago, there was AI, but it's come so far, and it's actually easier for the common person like myself to be able to use it. So that's why I wanted to bring this here to you guys today and dig into these 3 ways that you can use AI in your e-commerce business, in your Etsy business, and really explore these and see if it makes sense for you. Chris, is there something you wanted to touch on there before we get rocking and rolling?
Yeah, and this occurred to me as you were just going through that, right? One thing, like one word of caution before we dive into this, is that AI should not be used as a replacement, right? Like you should not be trying to automate all of this stuff, and you should not take any output from AI as gospel, right? I see some people in the chat saying, hey, I'm doing it to write blog posts or whatever. Not really suggesting you do that unless you like doing, and somebody else just said, I do that for content, but it needs a lot of editing after, right? This is really to help if you're stuck, or if you're somebody like me who has zero design capability whatsoever. There are some ways, and we'll talk about this here in a minute, how you can get all of the things that you need rather than trying to make AI do all of the work, right? You can get some of the things that you need to make this process easier. So if we think about it as an employee who never gets tired and gives us as many iterations of the thing as we want, that still needs to be signed off by the CEO or the business owner or whatever, right? They need a little bit of accountability. We're not just going to always take exactly what they give us as gospel. And you'll see some of that in some of the examples that we share. But it is a great way to speed up the process. It's a great way if you're stuck, if you need to brainstorm, if you need to come up with ideas, or, and Scott, this is one of the reasons you and I started really talking about this for Etsy. You're struggling to find something for your design, right? You've gone through all of the stock libraries. You've looked everywhere for an element of a chicken riding a pig, and you just can't find it. Well, maybe you can create it even with zero art skills. And so that's kind of the frame that I wanted to set for everybody. It's a great tool. It should be looked at as kind of like an employee that needs to be managed a little bit rather than a solution to everybody's problems.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, 100%. And someone just said in the chat too that yes, this is a tool. Use it as a tool. And I agree. It's not to be a replacement. So that's really, really important. What I did want to say though, is we are going to show you some real examples of how this can be used. I'm going to be showing you 7 different products that I created using one design, which was created with AI. And I'm going to show you how we were able to do that using Printify, by the way. So I wanted to give a shout out here to Printify as well, because, well, Printify has been awesome. And, well, I'm an affiliate for them because I believe in them, but I did want to say they make it so easy. Their customer support is awesome. And I actually have a special offer for you guys later that if you want to get their premium service where you save up to 20%, I'm going to give you a special code for that. So stick around for that and I'll do that. But Printify has been awesome for designs. Like I created these 7 products in under like 10 minutes. It's insane.
Scott, one more question before we jump in. I know we said we were going to jump in. Glenn wants to know, what is AI? And the rule that we have is if somebody's asking, 100 other people have this question too. AI stands for artificial intelligence, right? If you're nerdier, you may have heard computer learning, right? Back in the past. But that's really what it is. It's a computer that can help you do things, right? So in what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about a computer program that can help you design and actually create the elements from scratch for you, and ChatGPT to help you write listings, get tags, come up with ideas, some of those kinds of things.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if one person's asking it, there's a bunch of other people. So we want to make sure that everyone is up to speed. So, all right, let's go ahead and get rocking and rolling here, guys. I'm going to go ahead and add my screen or share my screen. And if you guys are listening to this on the podcast and you can't see it, well, that's why you should probably head on over to the Facebook group or YouTube, but I'll give you the Facebook group. That's at brandcreators.com/group. and you can join us live and you can watch if we are demonstrating like we are today. But I will do my best to describe what we're talking about here. So yes, we are going to be talking about 3 ways that AI will change Etsy print on demand forever. And that's what I'm going to be going through here. So let's just dive right in. So the very first thing is AI listing creations. And this is going to be more for your titles. It's going to be for descriptions. And I could have even put in here for keyword research or tags, things like that. So what we're talking about here is, and in this case, it's ChatGPT. Now there's other ones out there, but this is the one that's kind of mainstream. This is the one that's being talked about. And this is the one we're going to be using it for. So if you struggle with titles, and I'm talking titles that get clicks, titles that not just are keyword loaded, which we can get keyword ideas, but we also want them to be a little bit punchier, a little bit more where people will want to click on it. So with Etsy, we definitely want to look at keywords. That's what we're going to be focusing on, but we do want to write a good title and also a very good description. I know myself personally, descriptions is where I would use this. Now you do have to give it some information, but once you do, it is going to help you dramatically create some descriptions. And Chris is going to show an example here. So Chris, I know that you know more about the ChatGPT. You've been using it longer. Anything that you wanted to touch on there before we get into some of these examples?
Yeah, the biggest thing, and you'll hear me say this again with something like Midjourney or any of the AI tools, the output is only as good as the input, right? So what we give it dictates in reality what we get back. And so you're not just going to say, write me a product listing or a good description, write me a good Etsy product listing for a pillow, right? And get something that you want back, because they don't know what kind of pillow. It doesn't know what it is. And so we do have to feed it a little bit of information. One thing, Scott, and we'll touch on this here in a second. If you have, and you and I talk about this all the time, right? So if you created a pillow for this dancing avocado, right? And we created that listing, we wrote that listing, and we already have that in our Etsy store, we can literally take that listing, if that's the style that we want to use for the rest of these, copy and paste that into something like ChatGPT, and then just say, swap out the dancing avocado for a happy watermelon, right? And it will go through and it will rewrite that entire listing. But again, we've already given it that input. If we don't have that, and we'll see this here in a second, we do have to give it a little bit more of the product information so that it can get us back what we would want in order to create a good Etsy listing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what we're talking about here is, like I said, it's a help tool is the way I look at it. And if you already have something for it to write a better descriptive description, well, this could be very, very handy for that. You can also take something that's already been written and that's doing well and have it rewritten in a sense too. So it's almost like it's drawing inspiration, but it's making it original. It's making it your own, which I really like, because I do not like staring at a blank screen to write something. And this is a huge thing for that. I've even done this for YouTube. When I'm writing a description there and I just want to plug something in, I'll just go ahead and give it my title, and then I will ask to maybe make 3 points about it. And then it'll pull from that, and then I'll read it. If it's not right, I'll have it rewrite it. So let's dive into some examples here. So this one right here, Chris, why don't you explain this as you were going through to try to demonstrate how this would work?
Yeah, so the very first thing we said that everybody kind of complains about in the Etsy product creation process is creating good keyword loaded titles, right? And so if we have a title, in this case, I literally just typed in pillow into Etsy and took the first title, assuming that this is one that we're going to do, right? Pasted that in and then just said, can you rewrite this to be about a pillow featuring Scott Volker and Brody, his pug, right? So what I'm doing is I'm giving it the input, the information that we need it to know. And then I'm saying, hey, here's what I want this to actually be about, right? So all I did was copy and pasted that title and then put in what I wanted it to rewrite it as. So this is an example of something you could do if, again, you're just changing the design on a product, right? You're going from happy avocado to dancing watermelon or whatever I said a minute ago, right? This makes this process very easy. And a lot of times it'll add in some additional things as well. And in this case, assuming this is a boho style decorative pillow cover, right? You can see it just went in and it swapped out what it perceived to be the design of that pillow and replaced it with adorable Scott Volker and Pug Brody pillow set.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of cool here because all you did was you took this and then you said, can you rewrite the title to be about a pillow featuring Scott Volker and Brody, his pug? You know, and Chris, by the way, he's a puggle, by the way. So
Oh, I didn't. How did I not know
you
that?
got to get that straight. Yeah. He's beagle and pug.
That explains so much. Um, the thing, and again, this to me is like the employee thing, and that's why I
Yep.
brought that up a minute ago. You're like, hey,
Yep.
I need this. Can you go do this for me? Right. And then it will come back. And if you treat it that way, it also helps you form the query a little bit better, like the input a little bit better, because you're just saying, what would you ask a human being to do? And then you can go do that. So if you had an employee that was writing product titles, you'd say, hey, can you use this as your model and just rewrite it to be about Scott and Brody the Puggle?
Hey, thank you. Yes, he is a puggle, and he's a proud puggle. Just turned 10 years old, by the way. All right, so let's move on here to this one. So talk us through this, Chris.
So this is, and we'll actually see the description that this came from here in just a minute, right? But what I did was I had it write a description for that product, and then I said, based on that description, can you write a title? So I said, can you suggest a keyword loaded title for that pillow based on the description? So my workflow, I think, for this would be have it write the description if you're going to do that, and then have it write the title, and it's going to get you a little bit of a better title that's more closely tied to it. But if you didn't have a product title, if this is something that's brand new, you can absolutely have ChatGPT do this. And this isn't the exact title that I would use, but I guarantee you it's better than my first 4 attempts would be, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to get us there. We probably aren't going to include the sizes or things like that in the title itself, because there's probably some other keywords that we want to load in here, like Puggle, rock your brand, right? Just because they're keyword specific. We didn't give it any of that information, but this did a pretty good job based on the description that you guys are going to see here in a second of writing a decent product title. And this would definitely get us ranked and found for the main keywords, which would probably be you and Brody the Puggle on Etsy.
Yeah. And I do want to highlight what you said there. If you give it more information, it's going to do a better job. So if you started with a description and you're happy with that, and then you said, can you write me a title? You can even say, can you write me a title with this many words or this many characters? And it'll probably come back with something very, very close to that. Or maybe you'd say a short title or something like that. So yeah, I agree. I think the more information you can give it, the better, but you can start with nothing and just build off of that and then start to kind of rework it. So, all right, let's move on to this one. So explain
So this is the prompt that I used to create the description that we'll see here in just a second that led to that title, right? So you can literally recycle 90% of this and just keep it in like a Google Doc or notes or whatever. And it says, can you write an Etsy product description? Again, treating it as the employee. Can you write a product description for a pillow featuring an adorable image of Scott with his faithful companion, his puggle, Brody? And then what I did, because again, remember, if I just give it that, it will give me a product description, but it doesn't know who your supplier is. It doesn't know the specs. It doesn't know the colors. It doesn't know any of those kinds of things. So what I did, and currently ChatGPT cannot crawl the web. However, if you give it a link, it can pull some information from that link. So Scott, one of the conversations that we had a few weeks ago, and if you guys don't know, we just did a major overhaul at brandcreators.com. I used ChatGPT to write meta descriptions for all of the pages and posts that didn't have it. And you just give it the link and say, write me a meta description. And it's like 98% accurate. And it's way better than having a human being do it. So I said, I wonder if I can do that with a specific product somewhere like Printify. And in this case, what we're able to do is exactly that, right? So I gave it the link to, and I think I just went to Printify and picked the first square pillow, right? Like we're not getting fancy here. So I gave it the link. And then because it doesn't always read the whole page, I included the things that I thought were important that I would want to see in the listing, not necessarily how I would write them. But all I did was I scrolled down the page, I copied the about section, hit paste. I copied the features, and then I copied their care instructions and the size guide, right? And then I hit enter and let it rewrite this in a human readable way, right? Like this is terrible as it is. And it describes a very generic product, right? Because it's literally coming from the Printify website, which is Printify. So it's whatever their generic custom pillow thing is. And then we gave it the information that it needs to write the specific product listing by saying this pillow, which it gets from context below, has Scott Volker and Brody the Puggle. Here's everything that you need to know. Go write me a product description.
Yep. Yeah, no, this is great. And I think to your point here, and can you see my cursor, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you guys are listening, you can't really read any of this because you're listening, but like things like, Zipper closure. The product has one white durable zipper on the side. Vibrant colors. The latest printing techniques provide bright and crisp colors, matching your craziest designs, soft and plush. Like all of this is really just plugging in what you want to be included in the well-written description. So you're just giving it information to pull from, because if you didn't tell it to talk about zipper closure and vibrant colors and the latest printing techniques, it wouldn't know to say that. Right.
And it doesn't know what pillow. If you don't give it that, it's going to go through the database of all of the pillow information it has and go, here's a product description for a pillow, which is exactly what you ask it to do, right? It is the most judicious employee you can have, right? In that it will give you exactly what you ask for. And that can be both a blessing and a curse. So if we take the extra, and this took me an extra 15 seconds, y'all, to copy the about section, hit paste, copy the features, hit paste, copy the care instructions and the size guide and hit paste. In here, if we give it that information, then say, go get this, it will give us back a much better description. I'm not going to say it's 100% perfect,
right?
But I'd say it's 85% of the way there.
Yep. Yeah, no, this is great. All right, moving on. Okay, so this is what it punched out. Now, again, people are listening to this. I'm not going to be able to read this entire thing because it's pretty long, actually. I don't know how many words that is, Chris. But do you want to just give it a quick little read, maybe the first paragraph?
Yeah, and this again is probably where we would want to come in and do some editing, right? We don't really care that we're not introducing the product. No one cares about that. So we would probably just start off with this Scott Volker and Brody pillow, right?
Yep.
Just 2 minutes worth of editing. But essentially what it's saying is it features an adorable image of Scott Volker and his adorable puggle, Brody. Again, only as good as the input. Midjourney or ChatGPT, Scott, does not know that Brody is a puggle.
Right.
Made from soft, cruelty-free faux suede, this pillow is the perfect addition to any home decor. And then it starts getting into some of the details about why, right? And it took that little bullet point, Scott, that we copied in about the colors, and it wrote a sentence that I think is pretty cool. The latest printing techniques, which again was mentioned in the features that we copied over, provide bright and crisp colors that match your craziest designs. It helps make the vibrant colors of the Scott Volker and Brody image really pop, right? It's selling the feature as something people actually care about. Right. If you just said vibrant colors and you put that in there as a bullet point, no one cares about this. This is better than what most people would do. And that's one of the things that's really cool. And then it says the pillow is soft and plush material, makes it fuller and softer to the touch. Again, taking that feature and turning it into something people can actually relate to, right? That was just a simple bullet point. Talks about the exterior of the pillow and then gives us the care instructions and the size guide at the end, which personally, I think is important and is left out of a lot of listings. It can resolve a lot of issues in terms of customer returns, and it can resolve a lot of issues down the road in terms of customers misusing the product. Something like a pillow, people don't generally wash, like a throw pillow, but in this case you can, as long as you follow the care instructions. And so we want that included in the listing. ChatGPT was able to do that for us.
So how long do you think that process took you to go from idea, plugging in, this here, where it's, can you write an Etsy product for description for a pillow featuring an adorable image of Scott Volker with his faithful companion, his pug Brody, and then you gave a Printify link to the product, and then you said about, and then you gave some, bullet points of like what is in there, sizing, material, things like that. How long did it take you to go from here to here, which is basically the finished product, which is, I'm going to guess, probably 300 words, maybe 450 words?
About 5 minutes, because I had to go to Printify to find a pillow.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
Like if in the real world, it wouldn't take nearly that long because you're going to already have the product created. Right. Yeah. So we were just brainstorming about this and I said, I'll just do a pillow. And then I went to Printify and I found a throw pillow that I liked. Yeah. But realistically, between the time that I started the prompt and had the feedback back, even with ChatGPT being down yesterday for non-paid users, I got this in probably 2 minutes of actual work and then another 2 to 3 minutes of scrolling through the Printify catalog to find the pillow.
Cool. Yeah. Let me also let you guys know there's something else we're going to share with you that you can take this and use. There's another AI tool that we'll be talking about is more for art and graphics and things, but you can actually use this also to give you advice, to actually help you when you're not a designer. So Chris actually asked it a question to help him with a design that he created, which we're going to share with you here shortly. But he basically asked it a question because he wasn't sure for the design elements, what is used, like what is common, what is that market, what is that niche really liking. as far as a certain element. So we're going to share that with you. So stick around for that. I think that's really cool to kind of take the two and bring them together to really be able to help you. So the last thing here is, what did you do here?
So Scott, on that last one, out of 10, what would you give that?
I would probably say it's 8, because you're going to always need to go in and probably do some tweaking, like you said in the beginning and stuff. But I would say I would probably give it an 8, because I'm like 80% of the way there at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'd want to clean up the formatting a little bit. I probably want the different sizes there. But versus me typing this out.
Oh, man.
Even if you know exactly what you want to say, this is going to take, what did you say, 300 words. So it's 5-6 minutes of typing and then editing, maybe 10 minutes if you're a hunter and pecker. But you also have to know exactly what you're going to say versus coming in and editing. Editing is always faster, right? Yep. So if we can take this, paste it into Printify or directly into Etsy, if that's how we're creating our listings, and then do the formatting and a little bit of cleanup there, this is well more than worth it. And right now it's free. Yes, they have a paid plan, but it's free right now to get this help. So you might as well take it.
Yeah. So let me say a couple of things. Number one, I'm a hunter and a pecker, by the way. I always hunt on the keyboard.
I didn't mean that personally.
I know you weren't attacking, but I just wanted to kind of bring that up. So I don't like typing. There's no secret there, right? If I had to write my descriptions, which I have, my wife does a better job than I do, it would hold me back more so than creating the stuff, right? I like design, but I don't like the actual, creating of the words, right? So this is the part that I'd either have a really short description, or I'd have to pay someone, or I'd have to have my wife do it, or I'd use something like this. Like this, if I could get this far, I can do the rest. But this is like giving me 80% of what I need to get me unstuck. That's me personally. You might be a great typer. Like Chris is a great typer. He can, blaze through. He can write pretty well. He's good at that. I'm not. So this would be something that I would definitely want to leverage. And even if I was a good writer, this is going to help me come up with maybe better ways to phrase it, to say it, to come up with a better copywriting style that would make people maybe want to buy.
So that's another thing. And again, this is something you guys can play with, but you can actually, if you have like a style, and somebody had mentioned they like writing their listings like poetry, right? Mm-hmm. So you could say, can you write this product description in the form of a haiku, right? Or like in the form of Shel Silverstein or whatever, right? And it will actually do that for you. So like if you have a style that you're looking for, you can do that. This is just out of the box. And it's very, very good. And again, I would say this is an 8 out of 10. You guys can let us know in the chat if you would be comfortable just copying and pasting this into Etsy without more than another minute or two's worth of cleanup and reformatting. Let us know in the chat what your number is for this. But Scott, again, like we were saying a few minutes ago, the output is only as good as the input. So what I did was I took a pillow listing that was created previously to exist on Etsy. I copied the copy from the description, I put it in, and then did the same thing that we did with the title, which was, can you rewrite this listing to be about Scott Volker and his Puggle Brody? And what did it do? It did exactly that, right? Now, the input that it's getting here is only as good as what we put into it. So if the first listing that we feed into it is garbage, then our output is going to be garbage. In this case, this is a listing that sells pretty well according to our friends over at Everbee. So I felt pretty comfortable seeing if ChatGPT could rewrite this. And what they gave us was this, right? Now, this pillow only has one size because that listing only had one size, but that's okay, right? We could change that portion of it. But what it was able to do is take the existing listing and rewrite it so that it was about the new design. So if you've already done this,
Chris, let me time out for a second, because people listening won't be able to see this. The people that are watching can. I have it kind of circled or outlined. And this is what the prompt was. And then I'm going to have you continue, Chris, but you had it basically rewrite that last description. So it says, can you rewrite this so the pillow features a design of Scott Volker and his faithful companion, Brody the Pug? So then it came in and it gave this. And I like this one a lot, actually. So go ahead. I just wanted to, and I didn't want to leave out the people that are listening.
This is exactly like the title, right? Where we were able to copy and paste the title that we know is working and have it rewrite it. We took a product description for a product that we know is selling on Etsy and then said, hey, it's this, but with this design on it. So what they came back with was the same thing, again, the line we'd edit, introducing, because it's a product description, and apparently that's how everybody writes product descriptions, the Scott Volker and Brody Pug pillow. This adorable pillow features a charming illustration of Scott Volker and his faithful companion, Brody the Puggle, in a festive autumnal setting. There you go. There's a great word for you.
That's beautiful.
It's an ideal gift for any Scott Volker or Puggle lover, or a delightful treat for yourself. The simple design and neutral color will effortlessly complement any decor. It's the perfect for use on your sofa, bed, office, game room, or anywhere else you'd like to relax. The pillow comes complete with a stuffing pillow, and the casing is crafted from a spun polyester fabric that's naturally mildew and water resistant. The hidden beige zipper, in this case it has a beige zipper, adds a touch of elegance and ensures a polished finish. Measuring 16 by 16 inches, this Scott Volker and Brody the Pug pillow is the perfect way to add a touch of charm and personality to your home this fall.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it's really good. I mean, like I said, it's 80, 90% there. And then you go in, you clean it up. And one thing I just thought about this. You could also run this through like Grammarly to have it help you with like phrasing and words and spelling and all of that stuff. And even, some of your punctuation and all of that. But yeah, I think it's fantastic. And I think it's going to even get better. But once again, I want to remind you guys, I would not use this as a replacement. I would use it as a tool to help you create something or get you closer to where you're able to create a better description or a better title. Now, we're not going to go into like how to do this for like keywords and stuff, but you could literally just go in there and say, give me keywords related to this, and then have it kind of spit out a bunch of different keywords.
So what I would do, Scott, is exactly what we did here. I would do product description, right? So get it to write you a description that you like, then have it write the title, and then have it give you keywords. Because what ChatGPT does is it actually understands the conversational thread. And so you can say, based on everything that we've talked about, can you give me a bunch of keyword ideas for Etsy tags, right? And that would be all that you would need to do. So I would do product description, product title, and then keywords.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, cool. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to move into number 2. Okay. And this one here is really, really cool. Before we do though, what I would like you to do for me is, if you are here live or even on the replay, let us know, give us a thumbs up if this has been helpful, and let us know that you guys are getting value from this right now. And we're going to move into now more of the graphic side. Okay. Where we can help ourselves create graphics, and there's different things that we need to do for graphics as far as our Etsy business or e-commerce business in general. And what we're going to do is we're going to move into something else that could be used in the listing. Okay. Because it's another thing that a lot of people struggle with, because, well, they're just using what everyone else is using. And now what we can do is we can create more unique stuff for our listing. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So let me go ahead and move into that. And that is AI mockups. So you guys know, if you've been selling on Etsy for any period of time, or if you're soon going to be selling, you need good images. Okay. And everyone is using the same mockups. They're buying the same ones off of Etsy. They're buying them from the same places. Nothing wrong with that, other than you're not going to stand out. What my wife likes to do is create her own mockups. And we were actually just playing with this the other day, and we created some unique mockups that she's able to use now that no one else is using, because they're not available anywhere else. We kind of custom built them, but we didn't build them, right? We went out and we let the AI build them. And then we reiterated them, and we went through and made them our own. But what we can do here is we can use the AI for creating our own mockups for cover images and for additional images. Because I see a lot of listings that are under optimized with images because they just don't have the images. They're like, I'll just put up the one image, the one mockup. I'll do maybe a close-up. If Printify gives me one, I'll use that, and then that's it, right? We want to be able to fill them out. We want to be able to bring more life to the listing, and that's how you can do it using AI. So with that being said, Chris, we are going to be talking about Midjourney. There's other AI places out there or tools out there, but the main one right now that we're going to be talking about, the one that we're playing with, is Midjourney. I will be honest, Midjourney took me a little bit to get used to because it's a Discord. It's kind of interesting.
That is the biggest challenge with this. Like, DALL-E and some of the other platforms that are available for AI are much more user friendly to start with, right? They have like the classic white homepage with a search box that everybody got used to back in the day with Google. Midjourney seems to be, and you and I tested like 20 different tools over the last couple of months. Midjourney seems to be the one that gives you the best results, but it's also the least user friendly. But once you've used it for 20 minutes, you kind of get the idea, right? Discord is basically just a giant chat room, and inside of a Discord, you have what are called different channels. YouTubers have Discords that they let their fans chat in, whatever. Midjourney is based off of a text prompt. So if you guys remember chat rooms from back in the early 90s, mid 90s, right? That's what Midjourney basically is. It's just inside of a Discord. So if you have a Discord, right, you can do that. You can also sign up with your Facebook account or any Gmail account, whatever, and then you have one. And you can use it to create AI mockups and something else that we'll be talking about here in just a second. But realistically, Scott, and I know you like struggled with the sign up and setup process because it is not user friendly.
Yeah, it's
but
not.
Once you got into the Discord and I showed you how to create a prompt, how long did it take you to feel comfortable?
Oh gosh, minutes, like minutes. Like I was in there, I understood it, and now I knew what I was doing. And then it was just a matter of like, okay, prompts. Let me come up with different prompts. And we'll talk about that, guys. And like we said, we're going to show you like some real examples. We're going to show you a piece that Chris created, a design that I created, then created 7 products using Printify. Little shameless plug there for Printify, because those guys are awesome. And that's what we use for all our print on demand. At least I would say 95% of it. I've also got a special offer for you guys if you guys want to try the premium. So hang tight for that. But let's go on, Chris, because we got a lot to cover here. This is only number 2, and this is in the mock-ups. So let's get rocking and rolling because I do want to show you guys those examples that we were able to create. So moving down the line here, let me go ahead and show you this here. So Chris, let's talk about the prompt. The prompt is probably one of the most important parts of this whole AI thing with images. And you can see right here, I just took a screenshot of what it looks like. It's very interesting. There's like / imagine, and then it says prompt, and then you put in what you want. So walk us through this real quick.
Yeah.
Chris.
So when you're creating a prompt, and literally, Scott, as you were saying, how do we create a decent prompt? Somebody asked, where can we get good image prompts? And I'll give you a little bit of guidance on that here in just a second. But imagine is the command that you use to tell Midjourney what you want it to do. And then it gives you a little text box, and you can literally just type in exactly what you want, right? And in this case, Scott, I believe you created this one. You just said cup of coffee on a white background. Well, It gave us a white mug. It's not actually showing us coffee, but that's fine. It's a coffee cup, right? On a white background. It gave us exactly what we asked for. Now, if we want to build more complex things, we don't have time to get into that today. But if you think about it as the individual elements, that tends to work the best. So in this case, Scott, you said cup of coffee, comma, white background. If we wanted a cup of coffee on a table, separating those with commas as different thoughts tends to work a little bit better than even doing this, which this will work, I'd say 80% of the time, where you just say, you give it kind of word vomit of exactly like what you want, right? So I want a white ceramic coffee cup mock-up on a white background with a wood table bamboo, right? Now, because it's phrased this way, it doesn't know if you want the table to be bamboo, if you want the cup to be bamboo. So it's giving us a couple different variations here. What we can do to clean this up is say white ceramic coffee cup, comma, mock-up, comma, white background, comma, bamboo table. And that will usually get us a little bit better. So if we think about the individual elements that we want in the image and give it the individual elements, it makes it easier. It's like Legos, right? We can't just throw the Legos out of the box and have it turn into the Death Star. We have to build the pieces. And if we give it the pieces, it gives us a much better, more completed image back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I've seen it done both ways. And I agree with you. I think if you keep the commas in there, it knows that it's a separation. I actually just threw this in here because I wanted to see what would come back. And this came back within seconds. And then what I can do is I can choose one of these if I want to, and I can build off of it. I can do, different versions of it. I can do variations of it. There's a lot you can do. Now, again, we're not going to go into all this, but this was created to show you guys what it looks like to do it this way. And it's still pretty cool. I mean, the one up in the top right, if you guys are listening, you can't see it, but it's very nice. It's got the bamboo on the bottom. It's got a little white table. Looks like a I don't
Picnic
want to say a
table.
picnic table, but it's kind of grooved.
It's a chicknick table.
There you
Just
go.
as a
Chicknick
throwback
table.
to a couple weeks ago.
And then there's a little bit of like some greenery behind it. So these are really, really cool. So the other thing I want to say, guys, before we keep moving on here, I know some of you are listening and you're not watching this. If you did want to see this, head on over to brandcreators.com/group, join the group, and you'll have access to this and all of the upcoming live streams. All right, moving on. Let's go into this one here. So here was your AI prompt, Chris, for creating a mock-up. If you sell artwork or canvases or anything like that, right? Like, so we want blank wall space and something that we could then take this and use Canva or any other type of editing tool to put that graphic on here. Now, I think it would be a little bit harder on the ones that are at an angle than the one up in the top right corner. So walk us through this prompt here.
Yeah. So all I was looking for, again, and somebody had asked, are we selling, are you trying to sell like these plain white mugs as a thing? No, what these are product mockups, right? So if we can't find a mockup that we like, or we want to create a unique mockup, we can use Midjourney to do that. And all we would do once we have this is overlay the image. You guys will see that here in just a second, just like you would with any other mockup, right? You're just going to lay your image over that. In this case, Scott, what I asked it for was just a blank poster in a bathroom. I forget why that came up as a prompt, but you and I were having a conversation about something and it came up as a prompt. And so I said, all right, let me drop this in. And to your point, the ones that are angled would be really cool and really unique, but I have zero graphic design skills and zero access to Photoshop. So I picked the flat one because that's something I can do very easily in Canva. And you can see it's not the world's best, most perfect looking mockup. Yes, I could probably put a filter over it to make it match the lighting and all of those kinds of things. But that mockup looks pretty darn good.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah. For 10 seconds worth of typing into a program and then coming back when it dings. I like that. And somebody else had asked, like, what if somebody uses the same prompts to create mockups? Here's the thing. It's actually going to be unique based on
never going to come back the same.
And some of those kinds of things. You can put the same prompt in 3 times in a row and get different results. And so it's going to be unique to you no matter what. And that's kind of the thing that's really, really cool with this. If you're able to put this in, you can get very unique things back. Now you can now reuse this as long as you are on their paid plan. You have general commercial usage of everything that you create inside of Midjourney. You don't have to pay anything to get in and play around with it, but to use it for commercial purposes, you do need to be on one of their paid plans. I think, Scott, it starts at like $10 a month, something like that for their basic version. I'm going to be honest, guys, I ran through their basic version in like a day and a half. Just because I was playing around with it. But you can definitely use the free version and you're going to get the same quality of stuff back. It's just, you can't use it for commercial purposes unless you're on one of their paid plans.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, this is very, very cool. So if you guys are listening, what we're looking at now is a mock-up of a pretty nice looking tub on the left-hand side of a modern style bathroom with a tile floor. And then there's just a blank canvas or poster, but it looks like a canvas. It looks like it's probably, I don't know, one of those, frameless canvas prints, and then it's just white. And then what we can do is now take that, bring it into Canva, take our graphic and put it over top of it. So it looks as though it is the canvas. And that's all that's been done here. And the sign says grind, press, sip, so it's more like the meditation side. Not sure if this would go well in a bathroom. I might want to put this in a coffee room, but we'll go with it for right now.
Scott, what happens immediately after you drink a cup of coffee?
Well, yeah, I know you want to go relax. I get it. Yeah. I get the from meditation.
This just happens to be the mock-up that I had. I didn't want to go create another one for this. But somebody had said, can it create a smart object? Unfortunately, no. But inside of Canva, you can use their frames and just drop the frame over that white space and then save that as a Canva template, drag your image into the frame. It'll snap to the frame just like all of the other smart images do. And you're done.
All right. So that is like your mock-up stuff. Now check this out. Chris did this because, well, you can create people, okay? Models. All right. So check this out. This AI prompt was a fit man wearing blank Gildan 5000 sport gray t-shirt. So see how specific that prompt was? Well, he's got a pretty well fit man. This guy looks like he's buff, right? He's a good size guy. We have 4 different versions of this guy. Okay. 4 different styles. They're about the same body wise, and it is a t-shirt. It looks like it is a blank Gildan 5000. I don't know if it's a Gildan 5000, but they all look identical to me. And what you would do here is then you would take your design, your t-shirt design, and you would bring it in just like you would any other mock-up. For the most part, is you're buying that blank space, and that blank space is the t-shirt, and then that's where you would put your image over top of the the individual here, and then it would look like they're wearing your shirt. If I had time, I would have taken a design and put on one of these shirts just to show you what that looks like, but it's pretty standard. It's pretty easy. If you have Canva, you can do it in Canva. And heck, you can even do it in, I think, the free version of Canva. You don't even need the pro. So this was just another idea. I think these are pretty good. They might look a little, I guess,
cartoony,
3D animation-y look, but we could fix that with a few more prompts.
And you can, I mean, there are people that are literally running Instagram accounts right now that are using real looking photos on their Instagram account that are generated through this. But this is me being lazy, typing in something, right? I could probably go find a model that somebody has created. And that's one of the things that's really cool about Midjourney is anybody that's created something publicly, you can see the prompt that they used and then copy and paste that over to say, okay, I saw one the other day, Scott, and it was like something really specific, like a really specific kind of Norwegian woman wearing a parka, right? And it looked photoreal. And so if you copied that over and swapped out parka for Gildan 5000 sport gray t-shirt, you'd probably get back something that's a little more human looking than we did. But again, you could just chop the face off of this and nobody would know. The arms look fairly realistic. The heads are the thing, especially Hulk #2 over there. Just because the distinct lack of neck that he's got going on. But again, like this is good enough for a mock-up and you could use these. The easier ones to do are things that are not moving, right? So if you did a gray t-shirt on a table, you'd get something probably a little bit better back.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's awesome. All right, cool. So guys, that's number 2. All right. Using AI for mock-ups, using it for models. And again, I'm going to show you now the AI design part of it, where you're able to now create designs themselves or components. And Chris has got an example of the component side. I've got one where I created just a graphic and then I put that on 7 different products, which I'm going to share with you here shortly using Printify. All right. So let's move on. Guys, before we do move on, do me a favor here. If you guys are getting value, drop it in the comments. Give us a little love, a little thumbs up, a little smash the like button, like whatever platform you're on. If you're on the podcast, head on over, leave us a review. Let us know, was this helpful? What was the main thing that you took away so far? And we really, really want to hear from you and make sure that this is valuable to you. All right. So let's move on. We are going to move into the last part here, and that's number 3. And that is using AI for design. And we can use it for full art or we can use it for components. Now, let's move in here. Remember this? Remember this design? And if you guys are listening, I'm showing the design that was created to go on that mock-up in the bathroom. Okay. So that bathroom mock-up that we created now has a piece of artwork on it that says grind with a coffee bean, press with a French press, sip with a cup of coffee, and then with what is that, Chris? Anyway, is that
it's a meditating Buddha statue?
There you go. Okay. So we've got those 4 components. Well, and we have some font there. So understand the font is also important when it comes to art, right? Or design, right? So check this out. Chris asked it for a little bit of design help. Chris, walk us through the advice that you asked it and how that helped kind of pick the font that you wanted to use.
Yeah, so obviously not a designer, 0 graphic design capability whatsoever other than dragging and dropping things inside of Canva. And I was digging around for an example to use, Scott, and I came across the like meditation coffee type of stuff. And I saw a few different things. And I said, let's just take a whack at that. So I went over to ChatGPT, which is what we use to create the descriptions and the titles that we talked about earlier. And I just said, what's the best font? Because I don't know, like I know when something looks good, but I don't know how to make something look good. So I didn't want to spend 25 minutes scrolling through fonts and waiting to find something. So I went to ChatGPT and I just said, what's the best font for a meditation poster about coffee? And it came back and it said, well, here's some things you want to consider. It gave me the Chris Schaefer, right? Which is it depends. And then it said, here's some things you might want to consider. Here's some script fonts that you might like, right? And they gave me Pacifico Allura, great vibes. some serif fonts, Times New Roman, Georgia and Baskerville, or some sans serif fonts, Helvetica, Arial, and Roboto, right? And it said these might work because of these reasons. So we don't have to get into all of the reasons that I thought that, but I think that this is really cool for people who have zero capability whatsoever, because it gives you a starting point rather than scrolling through and trying to find a font that's going to fit something. And looking at the end result, Scott, it does give me that like coffee shoppy meditation vibe. It is kind of a nice blend of the two.
Yeah,
and I don't remember exactly which font I used, but I did pick one of the ones that it listed off.
Yeah. So you can ask ChatGPT for a little help. All right. And then from there, you take that help and then you use it in the design. So what Chris did here, and this is why it's important, and if you guys are listening, I'm going to walk you through it. So it's input, output. So the input is the prompt that you're giving the AI. So in this case, you're using Midjourney. Okay. So you're using cup of coffee, white background, or it's cup of coffee, comma, white background, right? So that was just one prompt, but there's other things that he wanted for these elements. So Chris, walk me through real quick these different prompts that you use, because what we're looking at here is we're looking at a Buddha, French press, we're looking at coffee cup drawing, we're looking at another coffee cup drawing, we're looking at a coffee bean, another French press, another cup of coffee. Like what got us here?
Yeah. So what I started with was, Scott, something like what you just have in here as the prompt, which was cup of coffee, again, one element, comma, another element, white background. And it gave me some like really detailed, not steaming, but smoking cups of coffee, right? It was like black, not white, which was kind of weird. But that was just its interpretation of what a cup of coffee was. So I said, okay, what about like a stencil? So I think I wrote, and we may even see it in the, I just said drawing of a cup of coffee or stencil of a cup of coffee. And once I got that back, which you can see right there in the SIP section, right? Cup of coffee, drawing, PNG. Those were the 4 that it gave me back. And I just picked the one that I liked the best. Obviously, I'm not going to use the first one because it's like a drawing of a drawing, right? But the other 3 were all drawings of a cup of coffee. I took that and then I just changed out the word cup of coffee for French press, hit enter, changed out the word French press for coffee bean and hit enter, and then changed out the word coffee bean for Buddha, I think, and hit enter. And I got back 4 different options, which is what Midjourney gives you. And out of those 4, just by making that one iteration, I got the 4 images that you see on the final design.
Yeah. So again, like creating the design with multiple elements, this is really, really helpful, right? Especially when you're doing a design for a t-shirt or, whatever, like you might not even use you're going to put the fonts in using a tool like Canva or Kittle or any of those, right? But in this case, we're using this for just those elements, which is really, really cool. So input equals output. And like Chris said, the more you give it, more detail, the better. All right. So now let's move into creating from inspiration. So I did a full video on this, and depending on when you're watching this, it may be out, but I went through the entire process. Now this is moon phases. All right. So moon phases is something I stumbled on when I was doing a product research session, and I thought this would be interesting. So as an example, I wanted to create something, and I'm not going to be able to create this stuff from scratch. I'd have to hire a designer. I'd have to go on Fiverr or go on another, maybe Free Up, Upwork, any of those, and hire a designer. And we have hired designers in the past, and they're not cheap, but it's worth it if you got a product that you're going to be selling for a long period of time. So what I did is I went in here and I typed in moon phases, comma, mushrooms, comma, butterflies, comma, color, comma, white background. Now, the reason why I put white background in there, guys, is because I wanted to be able to cut this image out. So really important little nugget there for you. So if you ever want to cut the image out, you want it on a solid background, preferably a lighter background, depending on what you're putting it on. If you're putting it on a black shirt, it's going to be hard if this came out on a black background, right? We don't want that image to be square. We want the graphic to be cut out. So just a little tip there for you. So what I did was I put that in there, and then this is what came back. So I had 4 different designs. All right. So from those designs, I was able to now select which one I wanted to use or I wanted to build from. So I chose this one. Okay. I chose this one here. And if you guys are listening, you can't see it, but it's basically like a moon, and it's got like some mushrooms, and it's got some butterflies, and it just got some other, kind of looks like nighttime. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's pretty nice. I was pretty impressed with all of the designs. I was like, man, that's pretty impressive. And actually, the first time that I created one of these, it came out in black and white because I didn't tell it color. And then what I did is I added that command in there. I added that prompt, color, and then it gave me color. And that's really what I wanted here. All right. So now once I've got that, then I can go ahead and create a whole bunch of products, right? Because you saw this back here. It's a bunch of blankets. All right. And there's a bunch of blankets here, and they're all different, right? And I think the one that I noticed was selling the best is the one with all, like, it's got 3 big mushrooms and then some butterflies, and then it's got like the moon phases up above. So that one there was doing pretty well. So what I decided to do was put this on a blanket, but then also a lot of other products using Printify. So here's what I created. Now, I did a video where I shot showing exactly how I created these 7 images in 10 minutes. Like, I even had a countdown going on that video, counting myself down, showing you that once you have that design, we can punch out a bunch of different products using a supplier like Printify. Okay. One that is able to put it on multiple products. So I put this on a sweatshirt. I put it on a candle. I put it on a blanket, a throw blanket. I put it on a shower curtain. I put it on a mouse for your computer, so you can use that on your desk. I put it on a comforter. A comforter. It looks amazing. And if you guys are not watching this and listening, you can't see these images, but these images, these mock-ups came straight from Printify. And then I have a pillow that I created. And also in the video that I did shoot, I also put it on a t-shirt because I was like, why not? I mean, it takes me like 2 minutes to put it on a t-shirt. So actually I created 8 products in like 10.5 minutes, which is pretty easy. So I can't stress this enough. When we are able to create a unique design, one that looks good, one that we know is proven to sell. Like, I'm not saying go copy it. I didn't go here and try to copy one of these blankets. All I did was I gave it information. I said I wanted to have mushrooms. I wanted to have moon phases. I wanted to have butterflies. I want it to be in color. And then it gave me this design that I was pretty happy with, and it looks pretty cool. And if you see it on these products, it looks really cool. And if you were into moon phases, you would probably go, yeah, I'd put that in my bathroom. I'd put that shower curtain in there, or I'd put that candle out. That looks really nice. Or I'd buy that comforter, or I'd buy that pillow, right? So I'm able to take this one design and leverage all of these other products. I could put it on a bunch more products too, by the way. So I did tell you guys I had a special offer for Printify. All right. And I do. They have a premium, okay, a premium service where or it's a premium subscription, I should say, where you get up to 20% off. So for an example would be like, if you were buying a blanket to resell and it was $25, you might get it for $22.50, right? Everything is going to change. It might be a little less, it might be a little more, but it's up to 20%. And generally, I did an example with the pillow. If you were to be a premium member and use that as like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and sell these pillows. Well, you're going to save, I think it was like you needed to sell 10 pillows a month in order for it to pay your subscription, which is like $29.95, I believe, at the time of this recording. So if you want to access premium Printify, you can for free for 30 days. So we're going to give you free access to premium. And all you need to do is go through our affiliate link at brandcreators.com/Printify and use code Scott, and you'll get 30 days free. Okay. So you can basically get all of the benefits of premium for free for 30 days. All right. So there's my shameless plug. All right. It's something that I use. I used it right here, and I use it in our own Etsy shop. And I would say 95% of our products are done through Printify. All right. So guys, do you have any questions for us before we wrap up this live stream? Chris, I know that you probably have some in the comments. What do we got going on over there?
Yeah. So a couple people were asking, is the output something we can put on something as big as a shower curtain? And I think the max output right now on Midjourney is a little over 2000 by 2000 pixels.
Mm-hmm.
And so the the suggestion that I have for most people, and there are a lot of other tools that you can use to scale images, um, to give it a higher resolution so that you can print it on that. But if you focus on the individual elements, right? So if we focus on getting the chicken, we focus on getting the duck, we focus on getting the pig or whatever it is, right? We focus on getting the Buddha, then having that Buddha at 2000 by 2000 or whatever it works out to when I scale it, vertically, isn't as big of a deal, and you can get a higher DPI out of it. If you want to create the entire design in Midjourney and have it be one solid image, Scott, like you did, you may want to look at some of the AI scaling tools if you're going to sell it on something like a shower curtain, where it's going to be a much bigger image. But you'll know as soon as you upload it to Printify if they think that the image is the correct resolution or not.
I was going to say that, Chris. I mean, what's going to happen? Like, so I took that image, I brought it into Canva. Okay. And then what I did is I cut it out, and then I saved it on a transparent background. Okay. I saved it as a PNG file. Okay. Which is what I recommend anyone do. But I saved that as a 6,000 by 6,000, whatever it was. So I upscaled it again, but because it was rich in color and it wasn't pixelated like an image would be, it's a lot of just dense colors. I uploaded it and I didn't get any, any notifications or any alerts that the quality wasn't good enough. So they will give you a warning if they don't feel that the quality is good enough. Now, this would be something too, like if you're going to be selling something like that, maybe you're going to buy one as a sample and check it out before you do it. Okay. But we've done this on blankets, not with the AI as of yet. But we have taken an image that was created in Canva smaller, and then we scaled it up, and then we put it on a blanket, and the quality is just fantastic. So yeah, it could be an issue, but I wouldn't think it would be. And when you upscale it to its largest form, I think it's 2000 by 2000, something like that.
Yeah, 2048 by 2048, I think is what it is. But if you think about like the typical advice that we give for like the Canva template is 5000 by 5000. So you're only scaling and stretching it a little bit. But there's also, if you have Photoshop, you can upscale. If you have, I think there's a tool called IMG Larger that will basically redo the AI image. Midjourney is getting better with it. Their scaling doesn't always work really well. But if you focus on getting the individual elements, it's not a concern. If you're trying to print the whole design, that's when you would want to look at something else potentially.
Yeah. And there's a few people saying in the chat, well, isn't there going to be 1,000 people, using the same image? And the answer is no, because I could put those same commands in and get something completely different. Like, I'm never going to get the same mix of what they put together, because they are mixing, by the way. And I know this because I was doing some work for creating some models, and they were taking like different components from other people and mashing them up. So I do know that. I think, Chris, we even had one that had like 6 fingers, right? So
yeah, I got a message from somebody who's in the chat with us who sent me an Etsy listing that they had created with Midjourney, and he said, the one thing they don't do is noses or fingers, and that is kind of the same issue that we've run into in the past. Is like, if you're trying to get into intricate levels of detail, it's not always great there because people hold their hands in different ways, and so it doesn't really know what a human hand is supposed to look like necessarily. So if you sell jewelry, maybe don't try to use it to get hand models, but other than that, you can use it from there.
Yeah. And then here's another quick question here. What happens to original art if everyone is using AI to create and sell an art pod and other websites? And can these websites distinguish between original art and AI generated designs? It's going to be very hard unless you are just taking that design from Midjourney or whatever tool you're using and then directly like using that as your file. It's going to be really hard to detect that. And again, I'm not saying create something that you don't have any input. Like, I feel like I might be a really good coach, but I don't know how to really play the game, right? So you can coach, right? Coach the design person. That's how I look at this. So we're not saying take something that is not yours and just, sell it. What we're saying is take it, let it be something that can help you. And all we're doing is just taking something that's being created from all of these different components and elements of the AI and then putting it into one of our designs. Or in this case, I told it I wanted butterflies, mushrooms, this, that, and the other thing. And then it came out with that design. And now I can reiterate that, I can tweak it, or I can use it as is.
Yeah. And I think one hill that I will die on is, what is the difference between an original piece and an original piece that's created with input from others, right? Like if we're selling print on demand and you're okay with having a clip art thing that is a chicken that you have the rights to use, right? What is the difference between that and creating the image yourself to use in a design? And to me, it's a difference without a distinction, right? And it's the same thing with art versus this. Like, this is art, right? Art is subjective. People that think painting a canvas blue is also art, right? To me, that's just painting a canvas blue. But this it's just a different process. So to me, there's no real difference between somebody with, Scott, what are those pads called? Like the digital doodle pads that you can draw on and have it show up. Like, what's the difference between that and having you drawing a meditating Buddha that way, and me being able to create it in Midjourney and then using that as an element in other things? There really isn't a difference there. The biggest thing is, if you focus on creating those individual elements, you have the rights to use those. And yes, technically people can like take them and copy them, but they could do that with any piece of work, and it happens all the time anyway. So I'm not that worried about it. What I am worried about is people understanding that this technology exists and knowing how to use it. And so for somebody like me who has zero graphic design skills, I can in 17 minutes take something, and I'm not going to say that that's the world's best coffee plus meditation poster that has ever been created, but it's a heck of a lot better than anything I could have created in 17 minutes, even looking for those images individually inside of something like Canva, which is the other way to do this, right? You just go into your design program, go into their stock library that you have access to, and you pick out the individual elements. You can do that, or you can use something like Midjourney to create a unique element and then use that over and over again. Or you can use it to create the whole design if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, no, I love it. All right, guys, we got to wrap this up. Chris, this is awesome. Guys, do us a favor. If you have any other questions, drop them in the comments. Also, give this a thumbs up or smash the like button, whatever platform you're viewing this on. And go ahead and just let us know if you guys are getting value, so we can go ahead and continue to bring the heat on Wednesdays and on these live streams, and what else that you guys would want us to create for future live streams. If you want us to go deeper on the AI, if you want us to go more into the product research, niche validation, like any of that stuff, let us know. We're always polling and seeing where you guys need the most help. And I thought today was going to be a very interesting live stream, which I think it was. And I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. This was awesome. We will be back here next Wednesday for our live stream, depending on where you're watching this. If you're on YouTube, well, we'll be there. If you're on Facebook, we'll be there too. If you're on the podcast, yes, we will be there. Usually it's going to be a week later on the podcast. So if you want to catch it before we actually air it, then head on over to brandcreators.com/group, and you can join us over there, and all of the replays are there as well. All right, guys. So that's going to wrap it up. As always, take care, take action, have an awesome, amazing day, and we'll see you right back here on the next episode. Take care, guys.